Welcome to the Journey 2020. I'm Charles Morris. Happy to be here with you on this Monday evening, where we come to you every Monday at 7 p.m. at www.thejourney2020.com. And as my old co-host used to say, which I miss Dr. Robinson from back in the day, he was the one who originally came up with the show, and we had been working together for years when I used to do radio at WOKB back in the day. One of the co-hosts with Marion Edwards. And used to call him up from time to time. He's a clinical psychologist here in the Orlando area. And Dr. Robertson would say, the journey is from me to you and from you to me so we can reach a high level. And that's what we try to do here at the Journey 2020. We touch on some serious topics. We laugh, we joke, but it's a way of us just reaching out and just connecting with each other. And I think that's why, again, I said last week, the show was probably one of the most important shows, so that's why we're doing a part 2. And we're talking about this coming election and how important it is. But first, I want to remind you that you make sure that you join us every Wednesday night for Youth Central Sports with my other sidekick, and that is the original Coach Carter, where we come to you every Wednesday at 11 p.m. where we talk some of any and everything about sports. The show is called Youth Central Sports, and that's www.youthcentralsports.com. And I love teasing with Vince because he is a Dallas Cowboy fan. And so I don't have to say too much about that. When was the last time the Cowboys did something in the playoff? See, I heard somebody laughing, so somebody know. And I also tease my pastor because he comes on as well. And my pastor is a Buccaneer fan, and I try to give him a lot of aspirins because I know that he's hurting somewhere. So between Vince and my pastor, Cowboy fan, Buccaneer fans, so a lot of jokes in there, trust me. But here today, we're going to be talking again about the upcoming election. And so I was talking to one of my frat brothers, just in general conversation. And he said something, and he don't know, and I kind of shared with him a little about what he said, which touched on me about something that I always talk about, that I've been talking about for years. Now, for those who, and I'm trying to say this, trying to understand this world from a political standpoint, which I think is a little separate from the reality of us common folks. So when I talk about the world of politics, for me personally, it's a personal thing. I think that the system just needs to be rebooted. It needs to be revamped. But the probability of that happening, I have no idea, and it probably won't happen in my lifetime. But when I had Miss Forrest on last week, she was smiling and she was like, there's hope. There's hope because she said there's a new wave coming. So we're going to talk about that as well. And then this morning, by chance, a friend of mine that what I normally do is I work with a lot of churches here in the Central Florida area, and I help them set up their video ministries, their audio ministries, and so on and so forth. So I've been working with Carter, CME Church. I also been working with Mount Olive for years. And I was asked to come in and stream, and actually, really, when he called me a couple of days ago, I really didn't know what I was streaming, but he said it had something to do with young folks and voting. So I was like, oh, okay. So when I got there this morning, I met one of our guests today who I asked to come on the show, and I'm going to ask him about why did they do what they did this morning and why they think is important. But first of all, I want to introduce my guest, and I'm going to start off with you, Mr. Fred Lynn. How you doing?
I'm doing just great. How about yourself?
Hey, any day above ground, I'm great.
Okay.
Why don't you give us a quick intro of who Fred Lynn is, and I know you're over at Carter CME Church.
Yeah, I'm a minister there, and I'm the youth director.
Okay.
Under Pastor Shonda Wilkin. And actually, I'm an architect that does a lot of work for Universal Studios,
Okay.
Disney, and Hard Rock Cafe, the first Hard Rock Cafe here in Orlando, first freestanding one. I designed that building.
Okay.
I did a lot of work out in those areas, but the main focus that I've been having here recently is the youth, trying to find ways to help them grow. The parents often are working 2, 3 jobs. These kids are very busy. You know, they're constantly involved in something at school, or they got little jobs, you know, and they kind of get detached from the reality of the politics of what's going on.
Okay.
And because they just don't have time to learn, and the parents don't have time to teach them because they're just busy themselves. So we're trying to give them other life lessons. And one of the big ones that we're doing right now is trying to teach them the importance of voting,
Okay.
getting involved in political campaigns as being volunteers for phone banks or knocking on doors, getting involved in the internet components of it, you know, as far as Facebook and
Okay.
other things like that. And
Okay.
we've got kids that like that.
Okay, but I want you to come back to that. I just, we're going to come back to that.
Oh, okay.
No. I want Miss Forrest to quickly introduce herself. She was on the show last week. She's part of the Black Caucus. So give us a little quick intro of who Miss Forrest is.
Hi, thank you for having me on the show again. I sincerely appreciate it. Again, my name is Cristina Forrest. I am a member of the Santa Rosa County Democratic Black Caucus. I was the first president of our county Democratic Black Caucus, which is currently run exquisitely and wonderfully by Sandy Smith. She's doing an amazing job. So I'm proud now to be a member and just to remain active. I'm part of a military family. I'm a veteran myself and currently following my husband around the country. So just excited to be here, excited to be on your show, and happy to talk about this upcoming election. So thank you for the invitation.
Well, Christina, I missed that last week. I did not know that you had served, so I want to say thank you for your service. If I missed that last week. Maybe you had said that, but first I just want to say thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. Thank
Okay.
you. It's both an honor and a privilege.
Okay, and now I have my frat brother there, Ruben. How you doing, man? Oh, did I lose you? Oh, what?
I'm
Okay,
doing great, Charles. Good to be on this evening.
okay. Won't you introduce yourself?
And you hear me now?
Say that again.
Yes, my name's Ruben Grant, a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. Grant, a member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, also with my brother Charles there. On the working side, I work as a transportation logistics manager here in the Orlando area. And I do quite a bit of volunteer work with the Young Fathers of Central Florida and also with the Sigmas on many opportunities, one of which is I'm a precinct clerk for one of the local here in Orlando as well. I'm very involved in the election.
Okay. All right. Well, now that we have all met each other, and let me see if I can just make sure that I'm able to bring everybody up on the screen real quick. So let me do it like this. Okay. Well, see, now we get a chance to see everyone. All right. Now, let's start here. You were talking about, and what I thought was real cool this morning, that you had the young people there, and I want to ask both Ruben and Christine about how important it is for the young people to get involved, and the earlier the better. So, why don't you talk about what was going on this morning?
Well, what we have found statistically is that black people typically don't vote until they're 32 to 36 years old. We've lost all of those election cycles, they're gone. And the reason being that they really don't understand the importance of it. It's not really a big, item on their life. And it really starts when you're young. What I have noticed in the last, I'd say 17, 18 months is an energized youth or young people. A lot of them aren't even old enough to vote yet. And as you saw this morning, we had several of the kids there that were 14, 15, as well as 17, 18, and 19. The 19-year-old has already voted once, and she's excited about doing this again. And her sisters are right behind her, and they're 17 and I think 15.
Okay.
So the thing that had intrigued me was how connected they were or were starting to become with, wanting to get involved in politics, but they don't know where or how. They don't know the mechanism. They don't know who to contact or how to even find out where a rally is so that they could get involved. And I was speaking with the Andrew Gillum campaign group about this, and of course we were speaking with Sarah Ambati, who is the regional director. She's young. She's
Right.
about 26, 27.
Right.
Fits right into that group, that Gen Y, Gen Z, or early Gen Z group. And she was able to connect with them really well because the way we talked at the rally, I thought, she would be ideal. The other thing that I wanted to do was open it up to more churches. Carter's a big church. And usually we have about 38 kids there. They had a special service, so we only had, I think we had maybe about 12 people total in the room. That didn't even include the parents who want to get involved with this. Because everybody's trying to find a way, how do I get involved?
Right.
And they don't know what to do. So I thought that Sarah could kind of, strip away the glaze that's over this whole thing and give them a look inside the tent. And she did a very good job of that, explaining who Andrew Gillum was first and why it was so important, but also how you get involved in campaigns. Where do you go to on websites? How do you connect? And also they jumped up and volunteered. They signed up to do phone bank, knock on doors, and we have in this campaign 12-year-olds knocking on doors.
Wow.
With the young kids are now starting to get involved. With the advent of the streaming system that you put together, Mount Olive, CME, and there's several other churches in the Orlando area that wanted to get their youth to take a look at this. They didn't think they would be able to get them there for today's service, but they wanted and encouraged us to put it online in some way, shape, or form. YouTube,
Okay, so that was why I was asked to come and stream
that's
it.
exactly why.
Oh, okay. Cristina, I want to ask you, and I'm asking you also, Ruben, but I'm going to let Cristina ask, how is the Black Caucus, what are they doing to try to educate and get the young voters involved?
Several of the caucuses are doing voter summits where they're going out and reaching out to churches and doing community voter summits to make sure everyone is registered to talk about different issues going on in their community locally. And when we can address those, we can address bigger issues that are going on nationally. All politics is local. So having folks who understand what's going on locally, having folks who have connections locally with the churches, with the different fraternities and sororities, and then reaching out to those who haven't engaged and letting them know that their voice matters. They've been very, very, very active in doing that in voter registration, getting vote by mail, also reaching out to the elderly homes, folks who may be typically sick or shut in. This election is huge, especially with healthcare and other issues that all tie into it. So they've been very, very active with that. And I just want to say, I love the idea of what the church did with the young people. That is so exciting, and I wish every church would do that.
Right.
That's where the hope comes in.
Right.
And that's where you know somebody.
Yeah, because when I saw that, I'd be like, well, he would be perfect to come on the show. Ruben, as far as you working with the young folks, especially the undergrads, what is Phi Beta Sigma doing in helping to get them involved in getting the word out?
I'm glad you asked that question. We're engaged in 2018's election cycle, and the fact that we are trying to get those young folks out and about to actually be registered to vote. The undergraduate chapter is holding registration drives there on the UCF campus. They also work that precinct with me. I am the UCF precinct we're at the site itself, 6 a.m. till about 9 or 10 p.m., ensuring that those votes count. We've also hosted debate with the gates for Orange County last week, and the sheriffs, we their debate West Channel 2 here locally. We did something really special, and the host with the Zetas called Mock the Vote. We actually had Orange County elections officials come out, register people, bring the voting equipment. So when you came to, you could see how it works, how it operates, how you check in, what ballots look like, the entire process. You are not unfamiliar day one on how to vote, how to do it, that your vote counts. That we've got to get these folks engaged. One thing, Fred, that I would offer over to you, take into consideration that those young church, they could probably operate a precinct in conjunction with some of the members of the church there, and an engagement. Even though they are not eligible to vote at 18, they can work the precinct and learn how the situation, how the operation, how the whole. So when they become 18, this is old hat. This is expected. This is what we vote.
See, now it's funny because, and I think Miss Forrest, I think that's what you was talking about. The new wave coming, the new wave coming. When I was saying I'm trying to have hope, because from a personal standpoint, because I keep talking about how broken it is and how the system.
Right.
This is my personal opinion now. This is my personal opinion that because of the way the system is, and that it's a fraternity, it's a sorority, and that's what they do. They look out for each other. And even I think for a lot of the good politicians, they get so caught up into the system and the way the system is set up that I think sometimes they're kind of limited in what they can and cannot do, because I think they just try to do what they can to make sure that they stay in power. And part of what we was talking about with Ruben, and Ruben, maybe you can kind of touch on what we were talking about, the fact that it started out, and I remember working with Orange County. When I was working with Orange County, the commissioners, it started out as a part-time job. Then somehow or another, they voted themselves to make over $60,000 a year and become full-time. So with that being said, you said something to me, and I said, that's what I'm talking about. So kind of touch on that conversation, what we were talking about.
Well, we got a conversation specifically of servant leaders.
There you go.
And our leaders today, they've dropped that servant part, and they're going to be on the leadership side of things. When our founding fathers came up with this whole idea, you were supposed to show up for a couple of months, and then you had to go back to the farm or to your business, and that's how you made money. That's how you earned your. That's your civic duty, was providing, your representation for whatever place of living. We've got to get that back through into our leadership side, and that the servant side, they are not there to put just their own agenda. It's supposed to be service to they represent.
Right. Well, see, that's what I was talking about, because they, and as you know, I was kind of like probably yelling and screaming last week, Miss Forrest, about how they are supposed to serve. They are supposed to represent the people. They're supposed to work for us. But it appears as if though they're on their own agenda, so which is so frustrating, but also our part and how we look at it and how we allow, and not to get into all this stuff, because Trump has taken this thing to a whole nother level of something that would take this to a whole nother show. But for an example, for myself, and I'll be honest with you, when I went to vote and I stood there, and I should have been out of there probably 10 minutes earlier than what I should have been, because I was sitting there looking at the ballot, and I was saying, these are my only choices. And I got a problem. I got a problem with this is it. And I'm just sitting there like this right here for like 10 minutes going, these are my only choices. There's something wrong. And it's not that, but I'm thinking about the system. I'm so deep into the system and how the system works, and I'm thinking about this whole thing, and I'm sitting there going, oh man, there's something wrong. So I finally voted, but I should have been out of there 10 minutes earlier. And I'm just looking at how, what's, well, I get them because the less we know, the more they empower. And I get that. And that's what I meant by trying to understand and what you're saying, there's a new wave coming and what we have to do to teach and what do we have to do because we're so divided among the people that enough of us can't come together to truly understand what we're talking about now. And I don't know if you remember what I said about Rush Limbaugh, Ms. Forrest. Remember what I said about Rush Limbaugh? Remember what I was saying about he has made his money off the ignorance of the people? And he's good at it.
Yeah.
He's great at just throwing stuff out there, touching on people's emotion, tapping this, tapping that. People, but he's basically doing his stuff on the ignorance of the people. So he has learned how to, that's his thing. So that I'm going like, oh, okay, so that's his little niche. But it's us, the people, that allow and accept and through the ignorance of this in which this country where we, like, personally, I don't think the Supreme Court should be a lifetime. That, to me, that's crazy. They should be held accountable. I just don't think that's good. That it goes against our nature. Congress shouldn't be able to vote themselves raises, and the list goes on and on and on, how they just empower themselves. But we, the people, allow it. So I don't know what to say after that. I mean, what can we do? And I'm asking, what can we do?
So
Yeah.
So let's go back to what you there's a whole lot in what you said. So I'm gonna try and kind of break it up a little bit. But let's go back to what you said about Rush Limbaugh, about him feeding off the ignorance. That's where I was saying that you and others like you are light in that. So for every Rush Limbaugh, there should be 10 people educating voters. That has a large platform. For everything he says, there should be 10 of us contradicting that. And that's where you and your show is so important. Like I said, I can't do what you do. I struggle with my computer all day long. I can't, that's not my forte. But you are so important. Other journalists are so important. And making sure that we have those connections with people where we can go out and educate, that's where we combat that. Right. And we don't let that stand. We don't let that sit there and just think in our heads, oh, that's crazy. We have to combat it at every step. We don't let them have the narrative. We don't let them have that ball. We stop it at every step. So that's where you and others like you are so important, and so important in our community, where we don't hear the truth, where we aren't educating. So I would just encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, because that's what you're fighting.
Well, see,
when you were talking,
no,
go ahead.
No. Go ahead, because I was about to I was about to talk about something that it touched the nerves. So I was about to go off for a minute, but go ahead. well, actually, you know what? You know what? I'll go ahead and say it, and then you can finish. Like, for an example, I got a problem with anybody standing up there wanting me to vote, and they say something as stupid as, I know more than the generals.
Right.
I don't even know where to begin to, like, how, and I'm sitting there looking like, the fact that you would say something like that, let me know what you think of me. Because it's like one of the dumbest, stupidest things that you can say. And then you know somewhere, somebody is sitting at a bar, having a beer, going, well, you know he know more than the generals. And you just look at him and say, why? How can you say something so asinine and want my vote? That just pisses me off. I'm sorry.
Can I jump in just for a second? And this is to bolt on to everybody's conversation.
Okay.
I watched Rush Limbaugh on television say, the people that listen to me don't know what to think until I tell them what to think. That's exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
And that is that low education voter. And that is the biggest struggle we have, is trying to get people to actually drill down into into what's going on. Instead, they're perfectly happy being fed whatever piece of information that person wants to feed them, and then they just live with it.
And see, and then I think, and you'll understand when I say this. I say one of the biggest problems that we have is that spirit that wants to divide us, that spirit of arrogance, that spirit of not being able to humble yourself, that spirit in which I have a problem because every time I hear somebody speak in the term of left wing, right wing, or liberal or conservative, that spirit is about separation. That spirit is about trying to say you belong over here, I belong over there. So therefore, that spirit is about saying somebody is better than somebody, or somebody is beneath me, and so on and so forth. So that is like the foundation of what this country is, and the way they think, and how we stay divided, and understanding that they feed into the racism, they feed into the ignorance, they feed into that spirit in which it just spoke of. And so it's so strong because it's easy to say, well, it's you people. And when you speak in the terms of you people and that separation, it's like that's what they hope for. That's what they feed on. And that's what Trump been doing since he's been in office. He's been feeding into that spirit, and it's coming out. And then what's so funny is people act like surprised. Be like, well, it's been here since the beginning of time. This is what this country has been. This country was built on that. People was brought here on that, so on and so forth. But in what you're saying is so true. But again, what can we do because the numbers are so large?
Well,
okay.
Here's another point that he made on 60 Minutes, because I believe that was the show I was watching. He said that they asked him basically, are you a journalist? Do you get involved? He said, no, I'm not a journalist. And they said, well, what do you consider yourself? He said, I consider myself a comedian.
That would be right.
But that doesn't penetrate his audience. They don't understand that he sees this as just a way to make money.
Right.
He's a comedian.
Right.
And he's having fun. And
Right.
he's telling them how to think. And I think that finally he just realized how much power he had. And under the Bush administration, how he used that power to keep George Bush in power by making everybody who didn't believe what he said nod and patriotic. And he was very good at that. But he said, I'm a comedian.
Right.
And they asked him, well, why are you doing this? And he said,
Okay.
for the money.
Okay. What did you say, Ruben?
I said they're not journalists; they're entertainers, and people don't understand that. The other side is they deal in fear. They go to the base level of man,
Right.
encourage fear among each other, and anytime you see a politician that resorts to that level, you know exactly where they're coming from. That is nothing but a demon approach to politics, because that is something innate within us that travels way back to time when we were, the beginning.
Right.
Fear. Something's out to get us. We need to run. We have to go with you because you will protect us from them. And so whenever you hear that, as a Christian, I go the other way.
Okay. As far as you're going to say something.
Well, going back to what you were talking about, the way to combat this is by voting. That's how you combat it. I don't think you were alone when you were in that booth. I'm a proud Democrat. I love my party. It doesn't mean that there's not issues within the party, but elections have consequences. And so we have to vote in every single election, every time. If you don't like what the commissioners did, you can create something and have folks vote on it to take it back to being part-time and vote. You have that power. You also have that voice. So there's nothing out there that we can't do. And there's a flip side to that also. So we have to stay alert. We have to stay engaged. We have to, I am so excited about the youth of this country. I got to tell you, I am thrilled. They are educated. They are out there. They are doing what, truthfully, my generation should have been doing a long time ago. And I got to tell you, there is so much hope. There's a lot of darkness, but I got to tell you, there's hope. There are people standing up to this, and we can change this. We can change all of it, but it only works when we all vote. When we sit in apathy and we sit back and we don't get off our couch and we don't vote, bad things happen. Bad people get elected by good people sitting down doing nothing.
Yep.
And so, yes, we have to get out and vote. Yes, we have to understand the ballots. Yes, we have to have a connection. Right now, my heart is breaking for those in Panama City. FEMA has not shown up.
Wow.
Some folks went out there yesterday, found a family bathing in a lake. I'm not kidding. This is real. There's other places like Mariana that are getting absolutely no coverage, that were just decimated. And nobody is there. We have local people going there, and that's how we make the connections. And that's who gets hurt in these elections. The people running, whether they win or lose, they're going to be fine. It's those folks, those families bathing in a lake because there's no water, because FEMA didn't come, because instead the president wanted to sit down and talk with Kanye West. It's stuff like that. It's appalling and it's heartbreaking. We can change this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. See, we were at a place and my heart was hurting. Now you took us even lower because you started talking about Kanye. Now I'm really depressed. Extremely depressed. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and what you were talking about with the Supreme Court justices, I'm grateful that Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not stepping down. So, because that blocks another Trump appointee. So, but if that's something you truly believe in, you can get together enough people to do a constitutional amendment to change that. That's why I believe in the power of the vote, and we should not be suppressing any vote of any person. We are all Americans, we all pay taxes, and our voice should all matter. So yes, if that's something you truly believe in, you can do that. I don't want people to walk around and feel hopeless, that there is a change coming. The youth are inspiring, and we're not going to win every battle. But we have to stand up, and we have to speak up, we have to show up, and we have to vote. And we got to take folks with us. Okay. And we also need to embrace each other. And what I mean is that there are so many in Florida that are disenfranchised, that when our brothers and sisters are telling us that our vote doesn't matter, instead of going off and arguing and just being like, you're worthless and this and that, we need to understand where that may be coming from. They may be someone who is disenfranchised, or their parents were disenfranchised and they grew up with that belief. We need to work to educate and know that we are fighting for everybody and not dismiss people. They need to see that we are real, and we need to tell the truth. We need to tell the truth, not sell on a politician or this and that, but tell the truth about what's going on, what they want to do, what they believe, and not what you think they want to hear. Just tell the truth. No. And when they know that they can believe you, they'll come back.
Ruben, you want to say something, Ruben?
Cristina is right on point, and she hasn't mentioned it yet, but you got a shirt in Amendment 4. We have over 1 million people in Florida whose rights have been disenfranchised, who should be voting. There's no doubt about it. I know she's going to speak to it on Amendment 4 and the reason we vote for yes on that. And it's just amazing in the state of Florida how we suppress people. But bringing it up, the thing with education, engagement, especially for the young people, is just helping them them to understand the politics is local. We talk about Trump, we talk about a lot the Senate and things of that nature, but if you live in the people that control your day-to-day lives and voting for the people in that area, it'll trickle and work its way up. We can definitely do this. It's coming. Christina, I'm with you.
Thank
Well,
you.
and I was about to say, Christina, go over some of the important amendments on the ballot coming up.
Well, for me, the most important amendment is Amendment 4. This is a people-led, 100% grassroots amendment. And what it does is it restores the right to vote for most people with a felony conviction upon completing all of their sentences. So that includes not just jail time. That includes jail time, fines, probation, everything. After all of that is paid, their debt is paid and they can vote. That doesn't go into anybody who's been convicted of murder or anybody who's been convicted of any sexual offenses. It's all the other felony offenses. And so what I believe is that when a debt is paid, it's paid. You're done. You shouldn't be continuously barred from voting. This amendment, again, is going to return the eligibility to people who vote only after they've completed their full sentences. Everything is done. More than 1.5 million people in Florida cannot vote, and that's growing. And Rick Scott doesn't believe that they should be able to vote. His clemency board is 100% arbitrary, and it is just awful and inhumane, and it is wrong. And Florida disenfranchises more people than any other state in the nation. We are one of 4 states that permanently disenfranchise felons, and we disenfranchise more than any other state in the nation, and it's wrong. And we have the opportunity to fix this. And 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 Black people in Florida cannot vote. That's wrong. Now, this is not just a Black issue. This is an American, this is a Floridian issue. It's not just Black people who have felons. It's not just, it's an American issue. So every pastor who's been doing, celebrate recovery or doing prison ministry, they should be marking yes. If they truly believe what they are saying, they should be marking yes, and their congregations should be marking yes. And we need to make sure that we get the word out, that we show up and vote, and that we understand that this is one of those things that crosses party lines. This is one of those things that is just the humane, right thing to do. And to those who can't vote, we need to let them know that we are fighting for them.
Is there any, because I don't know how things are being done in the church, but is there anything that's being said in the church about Amendment 4?
Yeah, we had that discussion last Sunday in the general sanctuary. Mm-hmm. The League of Women Voters struck that from their agenda, and one of our ministries is the Social and Human Concerns Ministry, and they were put in the minutes that they wanted to have the League of Women Voters come and speak. And Pastor Morris was very incensed about that because Pastor Morris used to be a state senator in Missouri. Mm-hmm. Very, very in tune with what's going on politically. And he thought that that was a real slight to the Black community, not having that amendment as a part of their platform. And he was resistive to them coming and speaking. It's that important. I know exactly what you're talking about when you talk about 1.5, 1.6 million African Americans in Florida. Nationwide, it was 8.4, and I believe I got that on MSNBC, Ari Melber's show. Mm-hmm. And they were discussing the amount of people, and if you could see that in comparison to the 50 states, mm-hmm. We're awfully high as far as that's concerned. Mm-hmm. So, yes, we have been having that discussion, but I had that discussion with the kids today, too. They had no idea that a felon couldn't vote after they were done serving their time. Mm. They had no idea that that amendment was out there. And what I tried to explain to them is this. it's in the midterms when you see these. You're not going to see them show up in a general election. They sneak them in the midterms, and there's battles on either side, and most people, especially of our color, don't come out and vote in the midterms. I think we had 16% during Barack Obama's first midterm term, and then 17%, and the last one, and that I got that from Corinne Brown at the time. She was still in favor, but she said that that's where we were at as African Americans. Most of our issues go through the midterms because they know that's the best time to do it. Okay. We're not as energized to get out. So the kids are starting to understand how politics is played. And that's an important part for their education. You got to watch how these things are played. And we're hoping that through them getting out and doing, getting in the streets and talking with people door to door, that they'll start understanding how important the amendments are in the midterms, as well as, voting for the correct person to run the state government. Because I think most of the governors come up in the midterms. You always have a senator or two in the midterm. You get a lot of congressmen in the midterms. And if we're not there, we're not going to get our voice heard. Just as you said, if you're not voting, it's you have no voice. Right. And really, at that point, you have no complaint.
Can you, Cristina, you probably can explain this amendment to me when they're talking about the victims' rights. What is that amendment? What is that one about?
If you're talking about amendment number 6,
Yes.
Amendment 6, the Progressive Caucus has suggested a no vote on that, so has the League of Women Voters. It adds the Marsy's Law, or victims' rights, to state constitution. It increases judicial retirement age. It prohibits judges from deferring to administrative agencies to interpret laws. Victims' rights right now are already protected in the Constitution. Right. This is going to eliminate an enlisting provision that protects constitutional rights of the accused. So basically, if you're accused, you're not going to get all your rights. So that's why they're saying vote no on 6.
Hold on. Help me. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I'm just trying to understand it, because when I see the promos, I see this guy being walked away in handcuffs. Then I see the young lady, she has a bloody nose, and she's speaking to the gentleman, and she says, well, what about my rights? So that's what I'm trying to understand, and I don't know if you just explained it, but what is it that they're trying to accomplish?
Basically, if you are accused, to take away some of your rights to be able to speak and have your voice heard. But both victims and those accused both have rights currently. We don't need to. I don't believe we need to change the law on that, because we don't know truly who's a victim, and just because someone is accused, that doesn't mean that they're guilty. So that kind of puts a guilty verdict on them already before that's been proven in a court of law. And again, both parties are already covered by the Constitution, so I wouldn't go to adding more to that. But going back to Amendment 4, what I would say about that, the yes to second chances, is imagine an 18-year-old who stole a cell phone or stole a laptop, and then for the rest of his life, he cannot vote. That's a felony. If you steal more than $300, that's a felony charge. And so I believe that who we are at 18, who we are at 21 is not who we are at 60 and 65. And you should not be perpetually punished for a crime you did. Once you've paid your debt is paid, and that means all of it. I believe in second chances.
If I could break in real quick, is that you have to put on your job application that you're a felon. You are instantly cast out of any opportunity to get that job. And it's just because of that tag that has to follow you. When they check you out, they'll find it. So you have to put it in. So that's another part of Amendment 4 that I talked about with the kids this morning, is that, you know, you will have the opportunity, an ex-felon will have an opportunity to go for a job and try to build a normal life instead of constantly taking whatever they can. So that's an important issue on that too.
What is it that we can do? And Kristen, you probably would. I guess I. Well, you know what? I'm asking everyone, because those are everything that we're talking about, because there's a reason behind that, because the less people vote, the more certain people get to stay in power, so on and so forth. But even the prison system itself is a money-making business, and they're in it to make the money, not about rehabilitating me.
Correct.
They love the revolving door. But as a voter, when it comes to the prison system, is there anything that should be on the ballot? Is there anything that we should be trying to change? And I'm just speaking personally. I'm asking your personal opinion when it comes to the prison system itself. Because I mean, we are affected by it. Just from what I could be arrested for a little bit of marijuana back in the day, or whatever it is, a little bit of cocaine or this right here, because it's about the money, and that's what I mean. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Christine.
we should be putting an end to for-profit prisons. We should not be making a profit off of people who are incarcerated. That should not be happening. The United States has the largest number of incarcerated persons in the entire world. That is ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And by no means should any prison be making a profit from that. We should be wanting less people in prison, not more, and we definitely shouldn't be profiting off of it. That is absolutely insane.
But that's what I mean. I'm saying, as we the voters, and that's what I was talking about. As we the voters, what can we do to change that? Is what I was trying to ask. Because that's very true, and everybody knows it's a business to make money, and that's why a lot of these things are the way that they are, because they want people in prison.
You can always do constitutional amendment. That is always a process. It's a long process. I'm not going to kid you on that. And it's hard. It's really, really hard to do. But it's not impossible. Amendment 4 is one of those that made it. So yeah, you can do constitutional amendments. You can also vote people in who believe the same way as you do. And then if they are not doing what you want, vote them out. They need to hear from you. They need to know. And you can also run. You can run for office. You can make a change. You know, our whole criminal justice system needs reform. All of it. It is so broken. It is unreal. But yes, we all have the power, and we can all do something. It's not going to work as fast as maybe we would like, but yeah, we're not helpless. We can change this.
Ruben, we're gonna point you something to run for something, man. I don't quite know what it is yet, but we gonna make you run. I mean, we're gonna point you to run for something, right? Because we all. I mean, see, I can't be a politician, man, because I'm just not. I got some stories where people are telling me, because that thing when you saying, well, you have to be politically correct, and that's not being, so you're saying though I shouldn't be honest, I shouldn't tell the truth, I shouldn't say what I really should say, I should say just what you trying to get me to say something in reference to being nice or what's politically correct. You're not telling me to tell the truth. That's what that means to me, and that drives me crazy, because like I said, when I said last week, when I sit up here and I watch CNN, I watch MS, and I'm like, I can't believe, because I've been in journalism for over 30 years. I worked in news television, radio, so on and so forth. And I just sit up here sometimes and I can't believe some of the stuff that they just sit there and they like this right here. And this stuff, this crap is just coming in their face and they just looking at it like, yeah, well, and I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you don't call them out. I don't know how you just don't say, I just don't know how you do it. I just don't know how you sit there because you trying to pick up your paycheck, but yet you're supposed to be a journalist, and that's one of the things that you taught in school, and that's how you're supposed to go about your job, and that's what your job is. And it just drives me crazy, as you probably can tell. It just drives, sometimes I have to turn off the TV because I love CNN, I love MSNBC, NBC. But just sometimes it's just overwhelming because they want to be politically correct. And when you can't tell and say you lying or you a racist, and the minute you say or you call Trump a racist, then all of a sudden be like, well, if you look up racist and if you look up his picture should be like, bam. And then, boom. And then they sit up there and then they try to it's like, well, what else is a racist? So what else is how else do you find that? What do you have to be? You have to go out there and literally, you have to see him hang somebody?
It walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck. It's a duck.
Duh. So I'm sorry. So it's just like, and I get Trump is Trump. He got all the right in the world to be him. But we the people and how we represent and what we say, it's just like the man is entitled to be who he is. But when all this cover up and I see this, I see that, and I'm like, well, you say that because you just like him. You just like him. So you don't have a problem. And I'm sorry.
That was a great soapbox moment.
That right on the head. Right. There are a lot of people.
If you had hair, it'd be on fire.
It just drives me up the wall. It's like, how can they sit there and it's just like, it's so normal to just hear such bull crap. Just bull and more bull and more. And it's just like the game they play. It's all about the money. It's all about the power. Nothing about the people. And like I said last week, Cristina, I said I learned right from wrong when I was in kindergarten. Whatever it said, but I know what's right and what's wrong. What's right and what's wrong. You talking about money and power. That's all you're talking about. You ain't talking about what's right or wrong. You ain't talking about what's right. You're talking about what's right for you, not the people. And so with that being said, it's just amazing that we don't have more riots sometimes, in the sense of people just being upset and not accepting this stuff, in the sense of just, and I don't mean riots as in riots, but I mean people being more upset about just regular conversations that people have, because they're supposed to represent the people. It's representing themselves. And that's why I say sometimes when I'm sitting there and I know what the deal is, I know how the system works, and I'm sitting there and I got to vote and I'm going like, there's something wrong. There's something wrong.
I don't know if you saw the television commercial that was put together against Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz was putting out flyers saying that, calling himself Texas Tough. So Google Ted Cruz, Texas Tough, and it'll come up. And it's brutal. It's brutal.
Really?
And it really goes at him. And I think you'd actually enjoy this. Because it is not politically correct.
Right, really?
You got to try that one.
Right. I mean, that's just like I was listening, and I'm going to kind of go off cuff for a minute. I was listening to I was listening to Pence, right? Mm-hmm. And this was when the election was going on, and they were talking about abortion, right? And he made reference, and then he said something reference to abortion, and then he said, well, I don't want to go to hell. And that's what caught my, of course I really wasn't listening, but I was kind of listening, and then he said something in reference to he's doing it because he wanted to go to hell. And then I did like that, because now you got my attention. Now, he said something in reference to the abortion, he don't want to go to hell, but then he left out the other 99 things that go with it. So it said, well, how did this person get here and what led up to this and what's part of this? But he only want to speak on, well, I don't want to go to hell, because now he's only speaking not on abortion and what's right or wrong. He's speaking on what I want to get, what I need to say to make myself sound politically correct to get a vote. but he's leaving out the other 99,000 things that comes with what he should be talking about and the people and all the things that come along with it. And that's what I get when I'm talking about the ignorance of the people, because I can simply say, well, abortion, and I don't want to go to hell. Because now he's leaving out all the other things. Who don't know abortion is wrong? But there's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason for that. And all the things that come with it. But they don't want to talk about that, or they don't want to address that because, again, the ignorance of the people. And it's just little stuff like that. And I'm going like, well, yeah, you are going to hell. But then that's my opinion. But with that being said, it's just frustrating because they just deal with the ignorance of the people. Not everyone, of course, but that's what your heart hurts because you care for this country, you care for your neighbor. And I had someone on the show that I respected, and he would lead the Bible study from time to time. And he translates the Hebrew Bible. He's a biblical scholar. And Skip has been around the world, and he has a great testimony. And I asked him while the election was going on, what was going on? And because he's been all over the world, and he talked to all these religious leaders, from Jewish to Catholic to everyone. And I said, what's going on? And he said, the bottom line was, we're at a point that the vote is not about the people. The vote is, what can you do for me? And that's how Absolutely. He can, right. What can you do for me? Not no one else. What you gonna do for me? So therefore,
our politics is all about the selfish nature of man, bro.
Right. And so therefore you have Trump. What can Trump do for me? And that's really where we are in our culture, in our society. And it's like, so what can you say and do when it should be, but it's about, right. So it's about me. What are you gonna do for me? And for some odd reason, we think that because he's there, if I brush up again against him just a little bit, some of that money might flow on me. So I don't, so it's always about the money, always about the money. If you want to answer, just follow the money. It's the money, it's the money, it's the money. So you have to forgive me because I've had my moments. And the thing is, to be honest, I really don't have the right words to really say what I want to say in reference to how I really feel and how I wish that we could change, this country to be what it should be, because there's a lot of good people here. There's a lot of goodness here, but some of this uprising and that spirit.
I think that's what we need to hang on to, is that goodness, and that there are people out there who are running for the right reasons. Folks like Sean Shaw, who's, for gun safety and closing gun sale loopholes, for defending civil rights, for ending gerrymandering, for ending stand your ground. For folks like Andrew Gillum, who, supports public school teachers, who doesn't want to see charter school money taken from public schools. Folks who are trying to stand up for those making minimum wage. Andrew Gillum wants to raise minimum wage to $15. Believes in healthcare for all people, So there's definitely a dark side to politics. I won't deny that, but there are definitely people out there trying to do the right thing for the good of the people. And I think we need to stand up, see that, and support that.
Well,
and I think that's where we have our power and where we make the change.
Well, you speaking up upon yourself, because you're one of those people, and I feel your spirit, and that's why I love talking to you and love having you on the show, because people need to know that there are people out there like you. Now you talk about me, now I'm talking about you. That's you, Miss Forrest, because it's people like you that truly makes a difference, because I can feel your spirit. I can feel your passion. I know that you care. I don't have to sit there and wonder, because I know that you care, and everybody that's here, I know that you care. And so again, maybe that's that wave that's coming, right? That's that wave that's coming.
It's coming. That's coming. The youth are bringing it. The older people are out in force. It's really beautiful when you can see, some of the folks who stood in the gap, in civil rights, mentoring to some of the young folks, and you can see like the young folks taking this incredible lead. We can't minimize, movements like Black Lives Matter. We can't minimize that and what that's done and how that's energized our youth and just how amazing it's been and what the change has been with that. And so I'm excited. I am so excited, even with all this darkness, even with all this craziness, you know, there's some real good that shines, and I don't want to lose sight of that, you know. And we have an opportunity to change it. We don't have to live in this crazy. We don't have to live like this. If we go out and vote, and like I said, it's not even about all those who are running. They're going to be fine. Their families are going to be fine. It's about those folks who don't have health care. That's who's going to lose if we don't vote. It's about those elderly folks who are going into nursing homes or need help or are having heart attacks and things like that. It's about folks who are my age who are taking care of young people and also looking at, oh my goodness, my parents are aging. Where does that leave me? You know, and it's not just about me, but it's about our community, our neighbors, everybody. I mean, just look at Panama City, Mexico Beach, Mariana, and all those others. And just look at the ineffectiveness of what our government is. Those are people right now who are hurting. And I don't care what side of the aisle they are. There's somebody's child. There's somebody's mama. There's somebody there. That's hurting. And we deserve better. And we can do better. And we have the power to change it. But it will only work if we all show up and vote. If we sit at home, it's all going to stay the same. That's what we get if we stay at home. So we all have to show up and vote. We got to bring folks to the polls. We cannot sit home. We have the opportunity to fix this and change this.
Okay. Now, with that being said, and actually, you know what? I guess I'm probably going to ask you to repeat yourself because we're coming to the no. What I'm saying is that we're coming to the end of the show, and I want each one of you to give us a last word on whatever you want to say about this election, whatever it is you want to say about this country, or whatever it is you want to say about there's hope, whatever it is that you want to say. And I just want each one of you to give me a last word on whatever in your heart. And so, you know what, Ruben, let's start with the frat brother, of course. I know you love the color blue. Go ahead.
Well, I'm very excited about this election and what we can do and what we will do, because I do think the people are excited and are getting energized about this election. I've been listening to a podcast this week, and one of the things that we talked about on it was the Zulu word Ubuntu, which is meaning I am because we are. And it goes into the humanity. Me alone by myself, I'm nothing. But together, there's so much that we can do and can become. So I'm really excited. I'm going to be pushing forward and just getting those folks out there, making sure you vote, because that is the only way these things are going to change.
Okay. Mr. Lynn.
I'm going to jump into this whole thing about the young people. And the energy that they are putting out there, just the incredible tsunami of energy that they have. One of the most encouraging things is that they haven't been jaded yet. They're very fresh, they're very open-minded, but they have very strong opinions on right and wrong. I run around with a button that says, when injustice becomes law, resistance becomes duty. And that is their mindset. They are upset about children being snatched from their parents at the border and a 2-year-old standing up in a courtroom and that has to answer a judge. We don't even allow American children to do that. they're upset about the way that women have been, really just put down. That just bothers them incredibly, male and female. They see right and wrong in a pure sense. And that's one thing I love about working with them. It's not that you're trying to mold their mind. Their minds are molding on their own. It's kind of feeding into the energy of the innocence of what they kind of bring to this whole process. And that they are very, very focused. They are focused on the process. They're focused on this country. They're worried about where it's going to. And I'm talking about 14-year-olds saying this stuff. Very young and very engaged. And I really love that. That gives me a feeling of hope for this nation in the future. That they can bring the strength of that innocence back.
Okay. All right. Ms. Forrest.
Hey. So I have a couple things. One is my heart does go out to those in Panama City, Mexico Beach, Mariana, and all those affected by the storm. All of the Andrew Gillum offices across the state are open to take donations. If you are able to donate, please consider doing so however you choose. But the folks in the Panhandle really could use some help and could use some support. So please consider doing whatever you can. Anything from water, non-perishable goods, tarps, baby wipes, all those things are needed and much appreciated. Please vote yes on Amendment 4. Help restore voting rights to those who have completed their sentences. Again, once a debt is paid, it is paid. And bring friends along with that, no matter who they are. I'm voting Democratic all the way down the ticket. I believe in Andrew Gillum. I believe we have a historic opportunity with Andrew Gillum. He's supposed to stand your ground and has continuously fought them. He's shown us who he is. He wants background checks on gun sales, wants to increase teacher pay, as opposed to the Trump agenda. I believe in Sean Shaw. I believe in Nikki Fried. And I'm opposed to this Trump agenda, and my vote is my way of voicing that. And so I'm hoping and praying you will join with me. And again, please vote yes on Amendment 4. Other amendments that the Progressive Caucus has suggested a yes vote are 3, 4, 9, and 13. And again, no matter how you feel on any of them, please, 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 I'm asking you to vote yes on Amendment 4. And I want to thank you for the opportunity to come on your show. It really is a privilege, and I'm honored to be here.
Okay, well, I want to thank the three of you for taking the time out. And again, said last week that last week I thought was a very important show. I think this show is just as important as the one last week. I don't think there's anything more important than educating people and letting people know that there's power in the vote, and that we have to believe in ourselves and believe in one another and believe in this country, and that there are a lot more good people than there are bad. So with that, I want to say thank you all for taking the time out for coming on the Journey 2020, because without you, I can't do the show. And thank you for educating us. And please know, at any time that you have anything that you think that you want to talk about, want the Journey 2020 to be part of, please do not hesitate. I would love to have you on the show at any point, at any time, because I know that you're doing something positive. And all of us, I think, work with the youth. And Ruben, that's my passion, and I know that's your passion, as well. So with that being said, I just want to thank all of you for taking the time out to come on the Journey 2020. Okay, with that being said, again, this coming election is extremely important. And so we just ask that you go out and vote, help someone register to vote. And if someone need to be taken to the polls, or if there's a way that you can help them to mail in a ballot, or just to inform them how important it is that they should vote. So what else can we say? That there's power in the vote, and there's power in you. And so with that being said, as Dr. Robinson would say, the journey is from me to you and from you to me so we can reach a higher level. And please enjoy the rest of your week. You be blessed. I'm Charles Morris.